to another episode of What's the Difference podcast. And today you might notice our cast is a little smaller than normal. That's because it's just me and Cynthia here with you today and two special guests. Stacy has left our show to pursue her writing, and Sam is a little bit busy right now, so she couldn't join us today. But we have Cynthia here again. Hey. Nice to see you again, Cynthia. Hi. I don't know why I'm always waving at the camera on Zoom. I was reading something about that the other day when they were saying that we don't understand why people are always waving on the camera on Zoom. But I guess that's a COVID thing. I don't know. But today we're going to be talking about autism and Asperger's, and who better to talk about it than two people who are living with it right now. And so Cynthia actually has a friend who has joined us today. So Cynthia, why don't you introduce Sandra?
So Sandra and I have known each other for almost 30 years. It's 28 years. We met at a summer camp back in the early 90s when we were in middle school. And again, we've known each other since then. Sandra was a bridesmaid at my wedding.
Yes, I was.
So Sandra, what should our audience know about you immediately off the top?
Well, I'm 40. I'm turning 41 in September, and I was diagnosed with Asperger's 10 years ago, which for all intents and purposes is quite late because most people who are diagnosed with this are diagnosed much earlier. But I guess because I was born in 79, not a lot was known until then. So my previous diagnosis before getting diagnosed with Asperger's was actually with ADD, which a lot of people who have Asperger's, unfortunately, are actually diagnosed as having. Because the symptoms are quite similar.
Well, I'm really excited, we're really excited to get to know more about you and about everything. I'm going to introduce Mackenzie, who I went to many, many years ago now, not as many years ago as you went to summer camp, but we're looking at 15 years ago, we were at Glendon College together, which is like a off-site campus of York University. It's where everybody speaks French, except I came out of Glendon not speaking a word of French. Sorry. So Mackenzie and I were in a lot of classes together, and I think we graduated the same year, didn't we?
Either the same year or within 1 year of each other.
Yeah, I think so. So tell us about yourself. So
I'm 33, I think. I don't know, time during COVID, you never know. I'm around 33. I'm a postdoctoral fellow at in the Department of Psychiatry at McMaster University. I work in the McMaster Autism Research Team, and my doctoral work and my professional work has all been around autism as well. And then I was diagnosed with Asperger's when I was 13. So I've seen I've seen autism on many sides.
We really wanted to talk about this on our show for a while, but it doesn't make any sense for just Cynthia and I to talk about it because we don't have lived experience. So, so Cynthia, I think you want to take it away.
Okay. So for the both of you, when did you notice you were a little bit, quote unquote, different from other people?
Well, I knew I was different basically because one of the things with Asperger's is that their motor skills aren't the greatest, and my fine motor skills were never that great to begin with. I had difficulty making friends in school, even apparently because when I came to Canada, I didn't speak any English, so that didn't help. But generally speaking, I was always one of the more socially awkward kids in school, even in kindergarten, so pretty much knew at a young age I was pretty different than everybody else. I don't know about Mackenzie.
For me, I don't think I noticed that. I didn't notice that I was really different than others. I was different. I just didn't particularly notice it. I think my parents noticed it a lot more. I didn't have a lot of friends. I was quite clumsy and didn't do well in gym class and things like that. But I never really had many friends, and at least that were my own age. People who were older seemed to get along with me just fine, but I didn't really have a lot of friends my own age or anything. So I mostly kept to myself anyway. So I didn't necessarily realize that how different I might have been from others, because I didn't really. I was young. I didn't really have any expectations. But I would say around when I was diagnosed, like around between like 10 and 13, I probably noticed something, but long before that, my parents noticed that there was definitely something different about me.
And yeah, and you both mentioned about what age you were diagnosed. So I think Cynthia, that you wanted to ask something now.
Okay, so did you, yeah, sure.
Yeah, because they.
Because that was, but did you find school difficult when you were younger, like when you were in school?
I did. I mean, I wasn't very good at phys ed, same with Mackenzie. I didn't, like basketball, volleyball were never my strong suits or running. But yeah, I mean, because I was sort of different, even though I got diagnosed much later than he did, I didn't find it easy to make friends. Those people who I was friends, specifically in high school, were either older than me or younger than me, but never the same age as me.
Well, I'm your age.
Well, yeah, you're my age, but that was an anomaly. I mean, most of the people, even people who signed my yearbook in high school, were people who are either going to graduate or were like a year young, like a grade lower than me. So for me, and even my teachers, I got along with better, like people my parents' age. But even those people who I grew up with were my age bracket, I never really, had a difficulty time because of reading social cues and reading jokes and stuff like that. So basically, my social skills, like Mackenzie, weren't that great, and I was a bit of a klutz myself, so it's easily made fun of because of that.
Did you have the same interests as other kids your age, though? Like in let's say in elementary school, like did BSC and Sweet, like Babysitter's Club and Sweet Valley books were like all the rage?
I read those books. I mean, I had those books at home, but I sort of found it hard to make friends because I switched schools. Like in grade 2, I went to one school, and then in grade 5, I ended up switching schools as well. So I ended up going to a few elementary schools growing up. So it's sort of hard to sort of make friends because I was never in the same school very long, unfortunately.
It's funny because Mackenzie, I remember when I met you, and it was just like, oh, you're just like this awesome, cool guy. And so, I mean, I don't know what your experience, and you mentioned about getting along with older people. And that's kind of my experience as well, but I kind of attribute that to spending so much time around my parents' friends and being an only child and being in the hospital so often that I had to learn to communicate with adults. But kind of what was your experience?
Well, it was similar to Sandra's experience in a way. So I was definitely more communicative, or at least more interactive with older people, just because like usually people around my own age were more interested in different things, or the only reason they were interacting with me was to make fun of me or set me up for something. I was bullied a lot as a kid, and so I found that when I was diagnosed, I was just like in the midway through grade 8, and I was in the gifted program, and I hated the gifted program. And it wasn't the material or anything like that. It was the other students, and that they could be really, really cruel. And so I made the decision after grade 8 that I would go to a non-gifted high school because I didn't want to continue with the same group of students for another 4 years. I wanted to meet new people. I wanted to sort of get a fresh start because, like Sandra, I was in a bunch of different schools. So I was in a different school. I had a split year in kindergarten. I was moved to a different school in grade 5, and then another one for grade 7, and then another one for grade 8. And it was either from moving or because of the gifted program having to move to a different school, that sort of thing. So yeah, a lot of moving, couldn't really get in and especially with the gifted program. Gifted program starts in grade 4. If you're not in there from the beginning, it can be very cliquish. Like people have known you're coming in grade 7, they've already known each other for like 3 years. So you're sort of the interloper and the new kid, and I didn't really fit in that way. So in high school, I kept my diagnosis a secret for a very long time. It wasn't until I was fairly open with it at university, at least to my close friends. But I didn't tell anyone in high school. I didn't feel that comfortable with the other high school kids, at least the ones my own age. I had a lot of friends who, when I was in grade 10, they were in grade 12 or OAC. So I got along well with older kids because I was a nerd. I liked Dungeons and Dragons. I liked computer games. I liked Magic the Gathering. All these nerdy things. And most of the of the people my own age were not doing those things. So they were more interested in sports, which I had no interest in, and they were more interested in their own things. So
that's probably why we got along so well, because I was 3 years older than you. So
yeah, could be.
Yeah. Yeah. So the next question that we have for you is, what has it been like, kind of like with dating and romantic relationships? And I guess we'll start with Sandra. So did you tell people about the Asperger's, or did you kind of keep it a secret? Like, what was kind of how you approached things?
Well, when my first, I guess, long-term relationship, I met this person in college, and I wasn't diagnosed until I was 30. So basically was well into our relationship when I had it. And when I finally diagnosed it, that was pretty much the end of our relationship. I don't think this person really knew how to deal with my diagnosis. I didn't really know how to deal with my diagnosis as well. I guess the question was it genetic? Which I had no idea. I still to this day don't know. And right now I'm not in a relationship with anyone because there's so little is known about what I have. So no, I don't really tell anyone because there wasn't anyone to tell while I was actually in my early times with this individual. I got diagnosed after I finished university. It was in 2004, so it's been a long time. So it's been, so I don't really have anyone to tell in terms of my relationships that I had Asperger's.
And I was going to say, this year is not a good year to date people. Just to meet strangers, it's not a great year. You don't want to be dating any strangers right now with COVID going around.
No.
What about you, Mackenzie?
Well, dating was a big problem for me, especially in high school and things like that. I asked people out and they all said no. Never really gave me any sort of reason or whatever, just sort of no. So,
awkward, or was it that, or?
Yeah, I think part of it was that I was awkward, but also I was also not like I was the nerdy kid, and who wants to be seen with the nerdy kid. I know today geek is chic, but I don't think
kind
it was.
Of geek, that's chic.
I don't, but it wasn't at the time. So. Granted, I was going through high school in the early 2000s, so that it was it was a different time. Now I sound old, but but it wasn't until later that I dated a little bit in university. People there were like, I was more open about my diagnosis there, and a lot of people were either people I knew as friends, and we were just seeing how I was going, or it was or I did have a couple of people who felt sorry for me and tried to play matchmaker, and that didn't really work out. But I did meet someone in my first year of university, and we started sort of consistently dating from second year onward, and I married her 8 years ago. So, and we're still married. So, but she had worked with people with special needs before, not necessarily Asperger's, but she had worked with autistic kids who had more severe issues.
Was she
and
neurodiverse herself, or?
Not that we know of.
Okay.
Not that we know of. But she had experience with people with different abilities and things like that before. So maybe it wasn't as, I don't know, maybe it wasn't as different for her as it would be for someone who had not had that experience. She worked with the disabled for years before we'd met. So being different to the level that I was different didn't scare her. So I guess I made the right choice. But it was difficult for a while, and it was a bit easier after I was open with people. But at the same time, when I started dating, I don't really know what I was looking for. I think I was sort of dating for the sake of dating, because that's what society says you have to do, not necessarily because it's something that I felt that I needed or wanted. So I'm happy with the way that things have turned out, but I think that sort of going back, there was a lot of pressure to just go out and date for the sake of dating, and I don't think that was necessarily what I needed at that time. But in the end, things have worked out. So, yeah, it was tough, especially early in high school and early in university for a little while.